Technologies, which is just a few miles down the road from here. This is joint work with, well, a lot of people from our institute and also collaborators from the United States Army. And we are talking about sexual assault. So especially in this age, sexual assault, people are very aware of this, Me Too and et cetera. This is actually sexual assault is a problem that the military and the government have been aware of for well over a decade. And they installed many programs that are intended to combat sexual assault. The US Army has what they call the SHARP program, Sexual Harassment, Assault, Response, and Prevention. And what the SHARP program has is a lot of people embedded in the Army units who are either response coordinators. Their job is to educate and also help respond to incidents of sexual assault, and victim advocates. And these are embedded in in Army units. So today, almost every unit of the Army, small and large, will have some people whose job is, or at least part of their job, is to deal with both educate people about sexual assault, to prevent it, and also to respond in cases something gets reported to them. Some of them are career, that's their job in the Army. Some of them, they do this in addition to other jobs. And all of these people need training, so that's why the Army established the SHARP Academy at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and they run several courses which train professionals in the SHARP program who later go into different military units. One of the most effective tools of training people is to meet with an actual survivor of sexual assault. By being able to talk to somebody who has been through the experience, you can establish an emotional connection with them, develop some empathy to people who have been through this, and also it can convince skeptics, because people say, oh, it's not a big problem. By talking to somebody who's been through it, it helps people understand this really is a problem. So one of the speakers is Jarek Wright. He was a specialist in the Army. He has since left the Army. He was assaulted by his leaders of his own platoon, of his own company, while they were stationed in Iraq. And after that, he reported the problem, and then he suffered from retaliation for reporting the problem. And he came out in public in a newspaper interview and videos, and he is a public speaker, and he talks about his experience to many audiences. But he has limited availability. He's one person. He also has a life. He can't just be talking to people all the time. So the question is, okay, how are we going to enable this conversation when he's just one person? So those of you who are aware of the New Dimensions in Testimony, the Holocaust project that we actually presented here at IUI about 5 years ago when it was in Haifa. This is built on the same basic technology. The idea is that the speaker records many statements, many things he can use in conversation in advance, and it's key that it has a lot so that you can actually have a conversation. When you talk to them, the computer will select the reactions in real time. So I say something, and the computer just picks a response from the available statements that Jarek has recorded. Sometimes he will not have a direct response, so he will use appropriate conversational behaviors, and this allows him to engage in conversations. It's not just like a video presentation, but he actually reacts to what I want to say, and it addresses the user's interests. So the outline of this talk, I'm going to start with a very quick interaction demo, then talk a little bit about how it works and the development process, and give a little evaluation in the end. And I'll hope to do all of this in the 10 minutes that I have left. So let's start with a small demo. If I can make this smaller. I'm going to put Jarek front and stairs. Hope that it works. How are you doing today, Specialist Wright?
I'm good, thank you.
What's your life like today?
My life now is actually very hopeful. I spent a long time here talking about very depressing and very saddening, horrifying things that have happened in my life. But as I stand now, I actually have a very enjoyable life. I could go to school full time. I'm very well respected in my new unit. I'm finally at a point in my life where I want to start a family. I feel that I can trust enough to be in a genuine relationship. So things are actually working out really well for me.
What advice do you have for those who work with victims of sexual assault?
If you're experiencing any type of these hazing traditions that are going on, first, I would suggest that you examine what actually happened and figure out if it was sexual assault or not. And if it was, first seek the help that you would need. Go talk to a SARC, go talk to a VA. If you think it had anything to do with sexual assault or was even close to it. If you simply just want the activities to stop, go approach your leadership. Obviously take it up the proper chain of command. If your first line leader doesn't do anything about it, bring it up to your squad leader. If they don't do anything about it, push it up to the platoon sergeant, and just go up as high as you need to stop these activities from happening, and hopefully not happening from anybody else. And then get whatever help that you might possibly need. Just talk to somebody about it at least. Even if you don't want to raise trouble, if you don't have the courage to come forward with it, just tell somebody that you trust at least, so you're not living with these experiences buried deep the rest of your life.
I'm going to stop the demo here because I want to also talk a little bit about this. But I hope you guys got the sense that of how the conversation goes. Basically, I talk, he responds. It's really, when I'm sitting in front of him, it is a face-to-face conversation. How does this work? This is the system that we built. If those of you who have seen other dialogue systems that come from ICT, it's kind of similar. The green line is the pipeline of what happens when I speak and get a response. So I use my mouse as a press to talk, and where the speech that I say, it goes to a speech recognizer that we actually don't have our own speech recognizer. We just ship it to Google because they have a very good speech recognizer. They transcribe my words into text. The text goes into NPC editor. The little star means that it's part of the virtual human toolkit, which we distribute, and it's available for anyone for research. That is a classifier and dialogue manager. I'll talk a little bit about it in the next slide. But what NPC editor does, it takes the text and decides which clip to play. The clip ID is sent to the video player, which is part of the Unity application, which we built specifically for this project. And the video clip is played back. That's how the conversation goes. There's a little bit more, of course, that's going on. We record everything, and we record all the audio, and we log all the messages so that we can analyze them later and retrain the system. There's a playlist manager because this is used as an instructional tool. There's also the ability for the instructors to use certain playlists. We can upload everything to a remote database, but this is the basic architecture of the system. The classifier/dialogue manager, it works, it's NPC editor. As I said, it is available for research. It works by just a linking of a lot of questions to responses. So it has a lot of examples. Jarek has about 1,900 video clips he can use. And it's trained in about 19,000 links from example utterances to example responses. The way it works is that it estimates every time a new question comes in, it estimates what is the language model that it expects of the response, and then it returns a ranked list of responses. Except that sometimes the list might be empty, because sometimes there is no good response. If you ask him, what's your favorite restaurant, he does not have an answer to this. And there are many questions that he doesn't have an answer to. So what happens is, if the list is empty, if there is no good response, then it goes to the non-understanding strategy, where it goes through 4 stages. First time, he says, well, maybe it's a speech recognition error. So say again, repeat it. Maybe I didn't hear well. Then trying to say, okay, I didn't understand. Can you say something different? Ask me something else. And finally, he will suggest a topic. If he does have a direct response, then he just has a little policy that tries to avoid repetition. A little bit about the graphics. You saw him. He was just on a screen here. That's one way to present. We actually captured him in the light stage. That is part of that's done by our graphics lab. He's done in stereo. We captured him in stereo with the 2 very high resolution cameras, 4K cameras. And in addition, a semicircle of cameras from many angles, which allows us to reconstruct this is what we call future-proofing, so that when we have other displays, when we have 3D displays, we will be able to show him from a variety of angles. You see there's lighting, there's a special custom-built Interatron, I can talk about later if people care, for maintaining eye gaze directly to the camera while he's being interviewed. In addition to the responses, we have idle and listening behavior. You notice that as I was talking to him, when I was asking him, he wasn't just a still image, but he was moving. He was like a live human building. And this is, as I said, is ready for an automultiscopic display, which means that you can see him from any angle, even though we haven't built that yet. Some new innovations in the system here. In the system today, we have he has the ability to ask questions of the user. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because we're right now running an experiment it's a new policy to see how can his initiative affect the user engagement. We are running an experiment right now, and we hope to report on it when the experiment is done. In addition, I already talked about the playlist manager. There is an instructor panel to use Okay. How much time do I have left? Probably like 3 minutes? 2 minutes, oh dear. Okay, so a key thing here is the development process. It took us about a year to develop, and it took us about a year, which started with elicitation script, recorded him once, then went on the road, did Wizard of Oz system, a mock-up of the system, filled in the gaps, did some more system, and took us just about a year to deliver the final product. The wizard system is, as I said, it's a mock-up where you have people with the top right-hand corner is the interface that we used to choose responses for him. We went to 3 military bases, to Fort Riley, Fort Leavenworth, and Fort Irwin. And each time we had people in small groups talking to him while we were sitting in the back. You can see Sule sitting there in the back in the middle picture, clicking and choosing his responses to see what questions people ask in interaction in order to inform the training data for the system. After we were done with that, we continued with the iterative testing, and then collect utterances in conversation, transcribe and rate, retrain all the time. This is one example report of which responses were good, which were bad. Overall, 3 military bases, about 200 participants. And once we delivered, the system is now in the Sharp Academy. And here is some responses. So the delivery was October 7, 2017. Over the next 9-10 months, we collected responses. We had a rating. I just want to point out one thing. The top 4 lines are, in the cases what I said, when he feels he has a correct response, he has a response and wants to say, we see that most of the time he gives a good response. Sometimes, oh well. The bottom 2 lines are cases where he decided, I do not have a good response for this. So in that case, we rate, say, well, is it something he should have understood? That's 1% of the case. Or is it something where it really was the correct behavior? And see, most of the time when he decides I don't have a good response, it is because he really does not have a good response. And then the correct behavior is to say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Please ask me something else. Today, it is in the Sharp Academy. This is a photo of a class in the Sharp Academy. You see how he is displayed not on this kind of projector, but he's displayed on almost life size on a TV oriented vertically. He is used in a capstone lesson in the career course. The career course is the course that trains people who are whose main job is going to be Sharp professionals, response coordinators. Future possibilities, we would like to expand this role. It's still not clear how to exactly do that, and we would like to record additional survivors. And I think this is it, so I'm actually on time. Just want to thank a lot of people and 3 military installations, which allowed us to do a lot of testing. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? And if you ask a question, could you introduce yourself and your affiliation quickly? Any questions?
Hello, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm Subhashri Sengupta. I'm from Syracuse University. And my question is, I actually have 2 questions. The first one is, can the system adapt to the emotions or the mood of the person and kind of modulate their responses? So if somebody is feeling very emotionally disturbed, can they express empathy?
So can they express empathy? So everything here is straight video, okay? So this is what's called the selection approach. So all we have is the 1900 responses that he has. Now he is a real person, so he does feel empathy, and he does express empathy. If you heard his response to one of my questions, where he is a person and he expresses it in his own way. Now, what you're trying, if I understand the question correctly, is does the system right now sense the emotional of the user and change which responses accordingly? At the moment, it doesn't do that. Can it do it? If we get a good emotion sensor, then we can tag things for, yes, this is appropriate in that condition. So we do have the capability. We do have the capability of saying, in some situations, use this set of responses, in some situations, or to tag a response saying, this response is really not appropriate for one situation or another. We have the capability in the dialogue manager. What we're missing at the moment is the sensing of emotion. That's what we don't have, but if you give us a good emotion sensor, we'll be able to add it.
I had one quick follow-up to that. In terms of trust and perception of these systems, I'm just wondering, have you tried to compare this with a human being and see which works better, like opening up to a system or opening up to a human, and if that has any impact?
So opening up to a system or opening up to a human, we have done this with other systems. This is actually, I'm trying to remember, was it Michelle's talk who said this? Yeah, so this is a system. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a system that we call SimSensei. Yes, Gail, who is the local organizer here, is one of the authors on that system. I also participated in some capacity in that system. That is a system which found that people actually tend to disclose more to a virtual interviewer than to a non-virtual interviewer. We found this with Jarek here. We didn't we didn't do a comparison with human. We just found that people do open up and tell him. We've had cases where even though he doesn't ask for it, people all of a sudden tell him, I've been a sexual assault. During testing, people say, I've never told anyone, but 15 years ago, I was sexually assaulted in the military. So people do say this. In that case, he does elicit these kinds of responses. We have not compared this to humans. So we've not run a comparative study, if that's the question you're answering. Then again, you see somebody who is fairly high-ranked, colonel or something, talking to him and said, 15 years I haven't talked about it, but I was assaulted when I was a junior officer. And that's something.
So we have time for one quick question.
quickly, very interesting. So I'm just wondering, because you choose that character, it's a guy, right? It's a male. I'm wondering, have you tried another personality, persona, like a female?
Have we tried another persona?
I'm wondering what would be the difference.
What would be the difference between a male and a female? So, as you said, future is additional survivors. We would love to do a female survivor, and we will do this as soon as we manage to secure the funding for it. Yes, this is definitely on our list. The reason we went with male first is because this is somehow the Army felt that that was the higher priority at the moment. So the question is, will there be a difference? I'm sure there will be a difference between males and female survivors. There also will be differences based on personality. So we can't really tell this about the sexual assault survivor because we only have one, but we know that with the Holocaust Survivor Project, where we have 12 people, yes, there are differences, both male and female, but also just every person is different. Every character is different, and they elicit different reactions. So yes, we know that. So definitely if we have additional survivors, and I assume that the next one will be female, then she will elicit different reactions, absolutely.
The reason I'm asking is because we did our study in very serious, like high stakes too, right? I was thinking high stakes, but even the scenario of the job interviews, the users' reactions are very, very different when they talk to different personas.
Yes.
They tend to trust the male much more, but they tend to open up to the female much more.
That's interesting. So I don't know how this would translate here in terms of trusting the male or trusting the female and opening up. I just don't know, but yeah, it will be something that will be very interesting to try out.
Let's thank the speaker again.
Thank you. Thank you.